artillery bombs to fire rounds on a so-called Negro uprising, killing over 300 blacks. Maybe they didn't see this as terrorism, but more like a chance to burn an old crop to render it useless. Now once, I stumbled across a book on medicine, and there began to pick up the pace of how we are always racing towards a cure. Now sure, advances have become costly over the years, but the price of life and intelligence has made it for it easy. I mean, the Ohio State prison system once injected live cancer cells into inmates to find some type of results, while FDA manufactured a new drug to calm down children's mild complaints by taking placebo, spelling it backwards just to redistribute it as overcall to help double their profits. Now, starting to question the authenticity within its written scripture. So I guess it's best that I look towards a good book, because they say in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and God's Word will always reign supreme, as long as it's the King James Version. No, wait, no. It has to be the New International one, or one of the other 50 books that was produced since the original. So if the red ink that I'm reading isn't actually coming from him, what am I to believe? How can I state these facts for us Americans to understand when America doesn't even have an official language to comprehend? Food for thought. There are more libraries built here than McDonald's, but we're so quick to intake toxins over knowledge, we find it easier to digest. Facts. It became a ninth wonder of the world, which this still exists. And I know y'all are looking at me like I'm on this stage getting high off my own words, right? But that would be no different than taking a Declaration of Independence, rolling it up, and smoking that shit since it was written on hemp paper. Now, Patrick Henry was asked to help draft the Constitution, but refused because he stated that he smelled a rat. Now, years later, yeah, more than one running around Capitol Hill, cutting up government cheese to feed to these low-income neighborhoods. But come to think about it, if a pro is a positive and a con is a negative, then I guess the opposite of progress should be Congress. But like I said, ever since I've been able to pick up a book and turn a page, I always question what I read, which means it should be better to know a little more than a lot. But what can I determine now if we don't even know the difference between what's fact and fiction?
Blood stops flowing, his lungs hardens into ice, his heart comes slowly to a halt. The heart is always the last to go. When the snow melts in the spring, the ice thaws from its ventricles, the crystals dissolve from its lungs, and just as slowly as it died, the woolly caterpillar awakens and comes back to life. For 120 hours, we waited for my sister to wake up. My family mumbling prayers around a doctor who tells us she fell into a coma when a blood vessel hemorrhaged, and my father hasn't stopped praying since. My stepfather searching the eyes of doctors for the answers to those prayers. My siblings pushing me into the room as though I could perform a miracle. My mother making twin towers of my arms the way she crashed into them now, while I attempted to believe that my faith far exceeds science and God would awaken her somehow. Awaken, sweet sister. Tell me that my tears the size of mustard seeds will fall upon your cheek and move the mountain of swelling in your brain. Tell me that the same God who makes all things possible can still live up to his name, because right now that name belongs to your mother, who's cursing God for being too coward to make up his own mind as she stares at the medical forms granting the hospital permission to let you die. If he wants her, then take her, she says. Who am I to decide? And by her side is your fiancé, whose fists are stones he's ready to throw. If the doctor mentions organ donation just one more time with your father, he's still praying at your bedside, wrapping rosaries around your hands and tucking prayer cards behind your neck. God will resurrect my daughter, he says. Please, God, tell me she'll resurrect. How do I respond? How do I agree when the tubes of your IV intertwines around my throat, strangles my voice every time I plead, awaken, sweet sister. Make this poem easier to write. Tonight, pull out the respirator in your throat and speak the words that will end this poem brighter than how it begun. Remove the tubes and we'll blow kisses into your veins, that you may know where the true source of your life comes from, how it comes from your heart, how in this hurricane world, we broke into tiny pieces, dropped them like care packages on our laps. You always had enough of it to give, which is why there are 200 people in the waiting room now, ready to give it back in case you needed to live. But on the 7th day, the doctor gave us the results of the last test my sister will ever take, and I swear I'm not built for earthquakes like that. My knees buckling like a bridge, my arms shaking too much to catch another one of my mother's crash landings. None of us was left standing. We were all falling through the cracks, falling until we hit the floor of her room that night. This is what rock bottom must look like. The nurse disconnecting her machines, our hands stretching to touch a part of her as we wailed, our tears dropping as fast as her heartbeat, our sanity vanishing with her breath. Faster it faded, my stepfather stroking her face. Faster it faded. My father presses her hand to his cheek, faster it faded. We're still waiting on a miracle, faster it faded. My face planted to my mother's belly. Mommy, this hurts. Faster it faded, and then it was finished. Monitors dropped to 0, and as her breath emptied and her heartbeat slowed, her fiancé removes the ring from her finger, ties it to his necklace, and says how fitting. It was her heart that was the last to go. It was silent after that. Silent as my mother reaches over to close her daughter's eyes. My stepfather releases a long-awaited sigh. My sibling straightens the creases in her blanket while my father unravels the rosary from her hands, takes the prayer cards from behind her neck and slips them into his pocket, places a kiss on her forehead, her chest, and both her shoulders. Put in a good word to God for us, he says. And that's when I knew that all along we had failed to see the light at the end of this tunnel she was going through, because while we were praying for her awakening, the awakening was really meant for us, to remind us that life is a coma we can still choose to wake up from, that faith means not having to wait for the sun to come, because sometimes the sun doesn't come, but we can still rise on our own. Her last breath has already blown life into the candles of our bones, with nothing more but a wish that we may live more fully. The woolly caterpillar freezes to death in the winter and comes back to life in the spring. For 14 years, it goes through the same cycle of awakening, waiting until the final year when its work is complete, then spins itself into a cocoon to be reborn a moth and fly away for good. So sleep now, sweet sister. You've surrendered your life for too many winters. We'll take it from here. Sleep now, wherever you wake. May you be reborn with wings on your back, flying to the sun, knowing when our own winter ends, spring will come and we'll see each other again. But until then, yeah, put in a good word to God for us.
Hey, you ever wonder what time God wakes up? You know, it should be before dawn, or if he's the type to sleep till the sun is high in the sky. The pain planted in darkness leads me to believe that he's an early riser, you know? That he sleeps long and hard through the nighttime. I wonder if your final heartbeat woke God from his slumber. But his eyes remain wired shut. He's still fast asleep when your sister found you laying still between bed sheets. They said you've had seizures in the morning before, but they had to rush to resuscitate you this time. The air had left your body before they could breathe life back into your lungs as if it were God's will. I've heard that air is God, but if this is true, does that mean that when we die, God leaves us? That he returns to the heavens, sending angels back down to lift our soul to the sky as they lower our body into the ground. October 23rd, 2018, I lost a cousin. His name was Sammy. He was the baby of the family. The last to be born, but the first to go. He suffered from a rare genetic disorder, had a seizure in his slumber. His sister found his lifeless body in the morning. I wonder if God heard his heartbeat alarm clock, but decided to snooze through it. Maybe that's why the sky cried for multiple days thereafter. Thunderstorms in the morning, a family mourning the lost, angels weeping because of God's mistake. Does God hear their screams? I wonder what they sound like to him. If he watches, as they reach the heavens, trying to feel his hands, trying to feel something, anything. You know, they say the prophet Samuel was as devoted as Moses. I bet Samuel could have parted seas if he tried to. So much stronger than Moses. Goliath on ground, Babylon broken. At his feet, wrestled with devil on his bad days. Praise the Lord on his good ones. Got me questioning God, like why he always take the good ones. Because I know for a fact that that morning, God said to sound me into the afternoon. For he knew what he was doing. Snoozing through the heartbeat alarm clock, heard every scream wiped, every teardrop. For the day we laid him to rest, the sun smiled big, just like Sammy used to. The clouds puffed and laughed from their guts just like Sammy used to. My cousin is now God's alarm clock. Sleeps across the hall from me. Wakes him up every morning with a big smile on his face to remind him there's still some work to be done.